If you were going to buy something for your company that could boost employee engagement, streamline workflows, entice customers, and save money and prevent waste, then you'd buy it, wouldn't you? Well, Business Digital Signage can do all of that. And to prove what I'm talking about, I'll be speaking with Debbie DeWitt, Marketing Communications Manager for Visix. Hi, Deb.
Hi, Derek.
Thanks for talking to me today, Deb, and thank you everybody out there for listening to this episode of Digital Signage Done Right. Don't forget you can subscribe to this podcast and follow along by reading the transcript on the Visix website, visix.com/resources/podcasts. Whether you're using digital signage or not, our podcast gives you practical tips for communications and content to better engage your audience. I'm Derek DeWitt. Welcome to Digital Signage Done Right. So we're talking about business digital signage, which is a little bit different than what maybe a lot of people would think of when they think of digital signs.
Yeah, I mean, most people encounter digital signage in retail. You know, you see it at the mall or at the airport or in a restaurant, and they may have seen it in a college campus or at their bank. But digital signage for business is a totally different animal. It's got really different goals, different content, different success measures. And it's really becoming more common in companies, but there's still some people who just aren't convinced they need it.
The first objection I could think of today would be, look, I've got a hybrid workforce. I got half or more of my people working from home, half or more of the time, and digital signs really only work for people in the physical location. So why should I do this?
Well, that's actually one of the reasons I wanted to cover business digital signage today, because that's an exact question we've heard, which is, if I have fewer people in the building every day, why do I need these screens? I'll just say that I believe the worst thing you can do as your workforce spreads out is to pull back on your communications.
Yeah, a lot of people think, oh, well, we'll just use email now, or hey, we have Slack, or hey, we have Teams. But just because you have fewer people in the office doesn't mean you have no people in the office. Even if they're not physically in the office, they're kind of in the office.
Yeah, and like you said, they're actually on site, So the last thing you want is, okay, let's say I used to have 100 people here. Now they're, hot desking or whatever you want to call it. They're doing a hybrid workforce thing. And so I've got 50 people here or even 20 people here. You don't want them walking into black screens. Or worse, you don't want them walking in and seeing like the same stuff that was up there last time they came in the office 2 weeks ago or even 1 week ago. And you don't want them spending their time trying to catch up on what's been going on at headquarters while I've been working at home. Walking around doing water cooler talk, going back, digging through the, 7,000 emails they got because we all now work from home and get inundated with email. The other thing is that corporate culture right now is totally morphing. By having people in the office and outside of the office, the culture game is a lot harder. I mean, it really is to build that culture. And so a lot of people think digital signs are only good inside the building, but like with our software, that's not true. You can actually use the same messaging on those screens as you put on your intranet or something so that the whole workforce is seeing the same messaging, which helps build that culture. It helps unite the hybrid workforce. And, I will say for people who are like, I don't know that we need this anymore, it makes no sense to, turn off a tool that you're already using. It might take a little more effort, but it's actually very well worth it.
Okay, but what if I don't have digital signage and I find myself in this hybrid workforce scenario? Why should I get it?
Well, there are lots of benefits, and you're not going to believe this, but I've listed them out. It kind of depends on the type of company and, how big your company is, but it's all about employee engagement. It's all about all of those things you listed off on why wouldn't you want it. You still have a workforce and they are still coming to your building. Maybe not as often, but they're still doing it, and it's all part of communications.
Right. And you certainly don't want to kind of just do this kind of like, oh, I'm only interested in communicating to the employees if they're all here. Those 20 people who are showing up, they're showing up.
Exactly. And like I said, and we can talk about this a little more, but, we have an HTML5 player that lets you take those same messages that are on the screens in the office and send them to the people who are working at home. So whether you're there, whether you're not there, you still get the same messaging. You get the same communications, you get the same engagement, the same activities and events. So everybody feels like they're on the same page.
Okay, so let's start off thinking small business, 100 or fewer employees. Look, we have email, we have intranet, and we have a bulletin board in the break room, and I just don't have that many people. So why do I need business digital signage?
Well, for any size business, the main benefit, as I said again, is employee engagement. We've published lots of stats. You've written a lot of it, and we've done a lot of podcasts on how employee engagement boosts efficiency, morale, it reduces turnover, it helps your bottom line. And I think a big thing right now is that there's a lot of turnover going on in the labor market. And so you really have to keep those employees engaged, informed, happy. It makes them more productive, but it also is a good retention tool.
Right. I mean, there are studies, so many studies that show that engaged workers are happier and they're more productive. They obviously stick around longer and they just contribute more to the organization. Whereas disengaged, even highly paid disengaged employees just don't.
Yeah. And, this can even be a recruiting tool. A lot of workers expect companies of any size to be modern, be collaborative, have technology in place before they'll even come on board. So I'm definitely not saying that if you have a 10-person office, you need 6 screens to talk to them. But, when you get into the, even 40, 50 people, it all depends on the business. But, that's still a lot of people to communicate with. And you don't want to just inundate them with emails.
Yeah, we're all sick of emails, frankly. We get way too much email, even today. And yeah, I know, intranets are sort of an alternative to that, but you can't be sure that everybody looks at it every day. I know I'm supposed to, and yet I sometimes forget,
Don't tell your boss.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, having screens around the office means you put that information in front of people. It's very hard to ignore that way. And, we're all used to looking at screens all the time. And
right.
I did want to say, you mentioned a bulletin board, which, it's sad, but it's true. Bulletin boards in the break room. But, it's probably covered in outdated flyers. And digital signs update automatically. The old messages fall off automatically. Data updates, events update. They all do it automatically. So you're saving a lot of time also, as opposed to that bulletin board.
Yeah, and you're also saving the time and resources to, design, I don't know, just even a Word document that says whatever the piece of information is. Print it, photocopy it, stick it up. It's a whole thing, and it just takes up an enormous amount of resources and time. What's the point of all that? We don't want to throw that ink-covered paper in, even in the recycling. It fills into the trash. It's just a pain in the neck.
Yeah, save the trees.
Save the trees.
Save the trees.
Save the ink.
Yeah, and I mean, emails take time. All employee communications, anyone who's ever had to craft an email that's going to every employee, you need to read through that multiple times, even if it's the slightest thing.
Okay, so are there benefits for scaling up if we're a larger company, 100, 200, 300, 400 employees? Are there extra benefits for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, the ROI on the cost of a signage system actually goes down the more employees you're reaching. And the more employees you have, the more challenging it can be to reach all of them and communicate consistently, especially like in a hybrid situation like you were talking about. And, the larger the business, the harder it can be to keep everyone on the same page. And again, reinforcing brand, reinforcing culture, helping everybody feel part of one team. That's something that the signs can help you do.
And you can kind of localize it if you're a spread out company in several locations, even if it's just in the same city, but especially if you're in different cities or states or even countries. As we're always fond of saying, people in the Washington, D.C. branch do not need to know some of the things that the people in the Portland, Oregon branch know or need to know.
Yeah, localization is essential. I mean, I would say that if you've got screens even in different areas of the business, each of those might speak to a different group of people. It depends on how your building's laid out. Business digital signage will let you show different messages on different screens so you can tailor it to be relevant in each location or each department, even down to the individual screen. And, like you said, I highly recommend, sending your messages out to an intranet for your people who are working at home. But you're not going to really do a playlist of messages for each department on your intranet. Like, that's a lot of different templates. Yeah. If you're trying to do emails down to the different department, that doesn't make much sense. It's a lot more time consuming. And again, you can't be sure they're engaged. You have no way to know.
Right. And again, obviously for people at home, it doesn't matter if a fire breaks out in the warehouse. But for the people on site, it sure does. And you can also kind of take over with alert notification capabilities.
Yeah, that's something with large campuses, whether corporate or education. A lot of the digital signage software, including ours, ties into CAP, which is Common Alerting Protocol triggers. So there are these safety applications that tie in. And so what happens is it can take over your screens to give you, like you said, there's a fire, hopefully not, but like severe weather, even weather warnings and watches.
Right.
So you
Right,
can,
like I was going to come into the office, and then I found out via the intranet that, snowstorms are coming. I'm physically on site, and I was thinking about leaving early. I see a snowstorms are coming, thanks to the signs. I'm going to leave early.
right. And that's another thing you can localize down to the specific area. And I think a lot of CAP polling will do that for you. Like you said, you're not going to get a Seattle alert in your Washington office.
And obviously, a large business probably already has a bunch of other systems they're already using that they can tie in to the digital signage system.
Yeah, data integration is big, and there's more data integration as the size of the business expands. But I will say, event schedules are the most popular thing that people show on screens. That's true of businesses of all sizes because everybody has meetings and everybody needs to know what time and where they're supposed to be. So, you can tie into event schedules, but you're right, for pulling in like data sets to show KPIs or big complex dashboards or customer service stats, things like that. Those are usually larger firms. Although smaller companies can use data triggers for simple things like, countdowns or pulling in content from web pages.
Sure. Is that true for interactive? Does it make sense for a smaller business to use an interactive screen, or is that really only applicable for larger organizations?
I think even small business is a large category. Again, you can have 10 people, you can have 100 people. And so that's very different. But yeah, usually it's larger places that use touch screens. But if you're a small business with 100 employees, you might still have like an interactive kiosk with a directory for visitors in the lobby, things like that. But yeah, I'd say it's larger companies that usually get into like wayfinding or an info kiosk or a queuing system or a menu board. You're not usually going to get that in the 20-person company.
Hopefully, all 20 of you know where the different rooms are.
Yeah, if you need wayfinding, you might want to just reevaluate how you've set that office up.
Though, I mean, I can conceive of a 30-person company that, for whatever reason, is research and development or who knows what security concerns, intellectual property concerns, it's spread out over several buildings on a campus.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And actually, you just made me think of something, which is, there are different kinds of digital signs. And one of them are meeting rooms signs. And meeting room signs are interactive. And that's something that a lot of people use, even a very small business, because they can book a room right at the sign. So when you say digital signage, it depends on what type of screen it is, what you're using it for, and the environment.
Okay. Let's say I'm kind of a mixed business. So I've got office workers. I've got a manufacturing plant, I've got a retail outlet, and obviously I've got a warehouse as well. And I've got all these different kinds of physical locations. Can digital signage be customized for each thing? I mean, what are the benefits for something like that?
Yeah, I think that's where you really see the benefits of business digital signage because, we were talking about before localizing. So it's the same thing. You don't always have to think of localization in terms of geography. You can think of it in terms of departments or job function. So because you can show different things to different groups, you can cover all those areas with the information that each of them needs, and you can cross-pollinate. If I'm gonna use an old term. I'm going old school on the buzzwords here, where you can let the office know what's happening in the warehouse and vice versa, things like that. Safety messaging happens in the warehouse, but they also need to know that their 401k enrollment is ending this Friday or whatever. And the office needs to know where they're at on inventory, something like that.
Well, and if you're, say, an office person who occasionally goes into the warehouse or the manufacturing facility, once in a while getting a safety message or safety reminders, maybe not a bad idea for them either, because they're not in it every day. So it'd be very easy to zone out and forget, and then whoops, there goes my finger.
Yeah. Oh, don't say that. Yeah, and it's all managed from a single app, usually via a web browser. So that makes it super easy. Think of it as a playlist, just like your iTunes playlist, except it's visual messages. And you just go, this one is for the office, this one's for the warehouse, this is for the factory. And like you said, if you've got a retail outlet, a lot of places, even a manufacturer will have like a lobby with some displays in it, and you can certainly do customer messaging there. So one person can create and schedule all the messaging, or you can have people from each department or each team do their own.
Yeah, it's interesting. We started off talking about hybrid workforce, some people on site, some people at home. Even the people who are creating and scheduling content for the digital signs can work from home because it's web-based.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you've got a tablet, it's pretty easy. You literally import something, tell it when to play and when to stop playing. You're done.
And the thing to keep in mind is this is not an IT solution. It is technology, but it's a technological tool for communications. It's a communications system.
Yeah, it's really all about supporting the company's goals and your employees' needs. It is a communications system. A lot of people think of it as, oh, I'm buying this software, but just like you have an accounting system or a CRM system, business digital signage is a system. So, communications is a critical business operation. I don't think there's any debate about that anymore. So, like you said at the very beginning of this, why wouldn't you use a tool that will improve your communications?
So, business digital signage can help engage employees no matter what size organization you run. Of course, the specific benefits will vary depending on how you use it in the company. I've been talking with Debbie DeWitt, Marketing Communications Manager for Visix, about why you should probably use business digital signage. Thanks, Deb. Thanks for talking to me.
Thank you, Derek.
And thank you, everybody out there, for listening to this episode of Digital Signage Done Right. For more free stuff, head to resources on Visix.com for guides, videos, and more to help with your visual communications. Please subscribe and share, and contact us for information about our digital signage solutions.